Hello, you're very welcome to episode 2 of the Rossie Podcast in association with Shannonside FM. We're on the road this week. We're here at Boyle GA grounds in County Roscommon to chat to Boyle and Roscommon forward Daire Cregg. Right, I'm joined by Daire Cregg. We're here in Boyle GA. Daire, this is a pitch familiar to you. You would have, I suppose, started off here. What age were you?
Probably obviously started playing football at home when I was 3 or 4, and then I suppose coming into the pitch, father would have been involved with a lot of the underage teams. So he would have coached under 12s for up until we were probably, I suppose, under 12s. So I would have been in around the place for 5 or 6, I suppose. So,
yeah. What's the first memories? Was it as a 5-year-old coming up here? Excited, I suppose, to start playing football?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, sure, look. Got a love of it very early on, I suppose all sports really, so I kind of started playing all sports very young, and yeah, sure, I love activity really more than anything, and just a bit of enjoyment and yeah, a few skills and stuff like that.
Was it always GA? Or was there I know Boyle Celtic's only actually up the road. Was soccer an influence at all?
No, so I suppose I played a lot of soccer, played a lot of rugby, played a lot of obviously Gaelic, done a small bit of athletics but nothing major. But yeah, rugby would have been, played soccer up until under 14 with Boyle, and played a bit with Sligo Rovers as well, Kennedy Cup and all that sort of the usual stuff, and then kept playing rugby. I was playing with Sligo, the club, and we played all the way up until under 16, 17, and played with Connacht up until then as well. And yeah, obviously with the Roscommon underage teams, then I got a fairly serious knee injury, so that packed the rugby in when I was about 18. So yeah, it's been football since then.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk, especially nowadays. Managers at underage teams want, I suppose, players focusing on one, because there's naturally enough going to be clashes between soccer and rugby if you play multiple sports. Did you find it as an advantage to play multiple sports, or was it getting to the stage where you had to just focus in on one? Was it getting too challenging?
No, I would have said definitely an advantage, yeah. It's sure, you're developing skills and hand-eye coordination and stuff, so that was brilliant across all sports. Yeah, just activity, as I said, you just want to be out playing with friends and stuff. You're happy to do anything you can. So yeah, it would have been, I would have enjoyed playing everything. There was a bit of push and pull at times. A couple of weekends where you might have 3 or 4 different games going on, but it's all part of it. So, and
I suppose you probably don't feel burnout when you're younger. It probably comes now when you're, I suppose, playing at a higher level. If you were, when you leave school and that to make those decisions, you probably didn't feel any burnout.
No, there was no burnout. There was a couple of little small. You might get small little niggles here and there, but nothing major. Sure, at that age you can run around all day, and there's no injuries or no hamstring injuries. So, was
it being involved in the county? Was that a deciding factor, kind of to mainly focus on GA?
We'd be a fairly big football household anyway, as in GA. So the father played for Roscommon for years. The mother has a big interest too. We just have big interests as a family. So I kind of always felt that I'd eventually play for Roscommon one day, and it was a goal, but I suppose something I always thought I would do. So it would have been GA. I would have been focused nearly on since I was a young lad. I tried the other sports, but it was always the focus.
And I suppose from a young age as well, have you a memory of, say, Roscommon? We're here, and I know probably, I don't know what age you were when the 2 Smith lads, Donny and Enda, I suppose seeing them actually, playing on a minor stage, under 21, All-Ireland final, and then, winning Connacht titles and that. I suppose within the club, not just for yourself, for other lads, probably great inspiration.
Actually, the 2 lads were massive role models. I've a couple of funny stories, but there was one I remember. I had a friend living down here, actually living next door to them, and we were just out kicking ball as they do. We were only 10 or 11, and of course the 2 boys hopped into the car beside us, and they were heading up to town, and we just went over chatting them, and I remember just asking my driver, what are you going at? Or I was in awe of the 2 lads at that stage, and they said, we're just going up to town to get sweet potato for the dinner. And I remember going home to Mum, and I just said, here, Mum, you need to buy me sweet potato. So I needed as much sweet potato as I could get. So yeah, I suppose moments like that, they've been massive role models. Even, I suppose there was no one more delighted for Enda than I was last year when he got his All-Star. He was in here in the club, and we had a big day for him and stuff, and it was just, even that was role model enough, to say, this is all possible one day. So the 2 lads have been brilliant for us, yeah.
And it can be probably easy to forget. I know you're with the county panel that, you know, I suppose there is young kids watching on, and even if after every Roscommon game there's maybe 100 or 200 of them running on the pitch for an autograph or a picture, and it makes their day, because I suppose everyone was that child at some stage themselves. So again, it's inspiring the next player to come up.
I suppose when you're playing yourself, you don't think about it really. You think it's just the norm, but when I think back to myself at that age, like, it was everything. Like, you were running onto the pitch trying to play a bit of ball yourself and just get chatting lads and stuff, and it was class. So it's nice to be that kind of role model for lads too.
The club then, you've been probably with the senior team now a few years. County final, I think you played obviously last year. Did you play in the last two? Yeah,
so I played in the two county finals. That would have been my first year. The first county final, our age group, will say, would have been playing on the senior club team the year before, but as I said, the knee injury, so I was out for 2 years with that. So I missed my first year under Basil Mannion, and then Keane Smith came in, and we lost our first quarter final to Pierce's. They won it out, and then we lost two county finals after that, and then obviously this year was a tough enough year as well. Roscommon Girls beat us in the quarter finals, so it's not been a straightforward journey since we've been on.
Yeah, like I reflecting back, I remember the Strokes Town one. Does that one maybe hurt that bit more? I know Bridges last year was only a point, but I suppose when you see when Bridges went on to an All-Ireland final, and well, my opinion, probably other people's opinions, they probably should have won that All-Ireland final. So probably the first year of Strokes Town, was that the one you maybe look back with a bit more disappointment?
Yeah, probably a bit of disappointment, just because I felt we were going really well that year. We probably struggled at the start of the year, but got really firing towards the end. And I think people probably underestimated Strokes Town as a team. We didn't. We knew how good they were, but I think people outside the team, would have said that was our chance gone. Like, whereas I think Strokes Town went on and drew with Mike Cullen and went to extra time. Like, so they were a good side. Like. But obviously disappointing. The British one probably was more disappointing from a personal point of view, because I was probably carrying a knock and wasn't playing that well. So that was a disappointing one too.
And club football would have been your first exposure to adult football, having played underage and then under 20. Was the step up big? How do you? And I was asking the lads in the club final preview a couple of weeks ago, just I suppose the standard of Roscommon club football at the moment. How do you see it?
I think it's at a very high level. I think, like, if Pierces get over Carfin this weekend, I'd give them a great chance of going on. Probably, and I'd say they fancy themselves at having a good crack at the All-Ireland. So, and obviously Bridges last year. And I think Roscommon football is in a great place in terms of club football. It mightn't be, I know a lot of people are giving out as a spectacle, like it might be a bit defensive looking or stuff at times, but I think in terms of skill level and the players we have, I think it's very high standards. So,
I've not found actually Roscommon club football from watching games of that to be have gone in the path of maybe some Ulster club games that be football on defence. I think there is actually attacking football from most teams anyways. I don't know, and you probably you know from a senior side anyways, going up against teams what it's like.
Yeah, I'd agree. It probably feels a bit defensive when you're playing it sometimes, but that's all part of it. That's part of the way the game's played at the moment. But no, definitely not to the level of what probably Ulster teams might be playing. But still, club football is very much enjoyable. It's probably tough. I've probably found it tough the last 2 years coming off. I would say you give big effort for the county team and you might get a couple of weeks off. I have found it tough on the body and stuff, just to, even mentally, to try and get really focused. But I suppose, we had a really good environment with the club team there for the last couple of years. Keane was brilliant for us as a manager, and he's going to do a brilliant job with the under-20s too, I'm sure. So, we had a really good environment, so it was easy to step back into that. But personally, I probably found it a challenge mentally and physically just to get fully right again for it. So that'll be a challenge to keep working on over the next few years.
And probably the conditioning of club players nowadays is even a lot higher than it was 10 years ago. Club is obviously below county in terms of fitness and conditioning, but the gap is severely closing from what it was 10 years ago.
Definitely, yeah, sure. When you come back in, you wouldn't feel like you're standing out from any of the rest of the players. Like the level is very, very high at club football. And listen, the lads are doing their stuff all year round. Like, we've lads that'll be gymming and running now, and they'll be getting ready for the club year next year. Like, so they're no different to a county player really anymore.
Just touching briefly on this year as well. Probably it is disappointing, I suppose, from being two finals. You would have probably liked to get back to the final, obviously, and then go one better. It just didn't seem to get going this year. I don't know what it was.
No, just Probably struggled. See, obviously I spent the summer in America, so I might be partly to blame for it. Myself and Keane McKeown were away in America, and listen, we had a great summer, and we were playing football out there too, so it probably took us a little bit of time to adjust. We were back for the Pierce's game, and we actually played quite well there. Pierce were obviously very strong, as they've gone on to show. So that was a bit of it. We lost that game, obviously, and then I suppose we beat Castlereagh well, but the momentum was slow to kind of build. So obviously then Roscommon Gales probably, they gave us a bit of a lesson, to be honest. We were quite poor, and we just weren't good with the ball, and they gave us a lesson on the day, really, and a very good side too, like. So that was disappointing though, but sure, that's life, I suppose.
And going into next year, there'll be a new manager in place. You mentioned there Keane Smith's going at the under-20s. Just briefly on him, the influence he's had on your own career to date so far.
Sure, Keane's been brilliant. Same as the two lads. Keane was a role model too. He was involved in that 2006 minor team, and I was 4, I think, in 2006, so I was at that game, and you're in awe of even Keane, and then, as I said, the two lads. So Keane's been brilliant for us too. He's a brilliant coach, brilliant ideas, and just really good people manager as well, I'd say. He's very good at keeping lads together, and really, really good at feedback and all that sort of stuff. So in my opinion, he was definitely the best man for the under-20 job, and I think we're very lucky now as an underage structure to have him involved, so it's brilliant.
Your first experience of a county panel, would that have been under 14, under 16?
I would have said, probably went in under 15. We had a very good underage club team, so we'd gone quite far. We had a really good group of players, and we got to the Féile under 13 down in Cork, and we'd always been quite successful along, so we didn't actually end up going into the underage Roscommon teams until it was about under 15, and then the following year I was in with the minors. It would have been my first year. We were under Paul Staunton, so we had a very good minor team then too, actually, but we ended up losing the quarter-final to the Kerry team that went on to win it. That would have been under 15, I suppose, would have been the first one.
And to go from a club underage team to a county underage team, was it a massive difference straight away?
No, not a massive difference. As I said, because our club team was very strong, I suppose it would have been us, Pierce's and Bridget's, that were kind of the three main teams at that age. So I wouldn't have felt it a massive difference, really, just because we were well coached and we had the basic skills fairly well down. It wasn't a massive step up. It was obviously different, playing with different lads, and there was probably big numbers at that time. I would have said the step up to a minor team the following year was a much bigger step up.
You mentioned the injury. When did that happen?
So that would have been my second year minor. It was the first round against Galway. I just came down badly on the knee and the hide, and the ground was very dry, and ended up splitting the kneecap. So that was a fairly serious injury. I ended up with 2 surgeries out of it and nearly 2 years out of the game. So a tough time, but probably, it's funny, at that age even I seen it as a great opportunity. Once I get over the initial, I suppose, an early depression of it, it was a great opportunity to kind of develop as outside of sport, I would have said. So it turned out to be a bit of a blessing, I suppose, in a way for me.
I suppose, and you mentioned there looking at the positives, but the few weeks after it, the couple of months, like, how hard is that, knowing that you're completely out of football now? Was there ever even a consideration? Would you get back to what you were like? Was that going through your head? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So I spent the first 3 months lying in bed with a cast on. So I actually had the leaving cert 3 weeks after I broke the knee. So that kind of moved me on fairly quickly. But there was all them sort of things. I actually remember going to a physio. It was with the Connacht rugby team at the time, and he said we were doing a few kind of rehab drills or whatever, and I was trying to kneel down, and he said, listen, there was too much pain, and he said, listen, this could be a thing for life, you mightn't be able to kneel down again even. So it was never an issue that I get back to sport. I always felt I'd get back, but of course you're always worried, especially at that age, that will I ever reach the top level or whatever. But it was just about getting over it.
I was just thinking there, actually, and you mentioned doctor there, the severity of that injury, that were people saying that you mightn't play again? Was that ever kind of brought up, or are you just looking at the positives, the rehab getting thing?
Once
back.
You're not thinking about that really.
Yeah.
I suppose Martin Daly was their doctor at the time at Roscommon, and he said it was one of the worst injuries he's ever seen. So he kind of maintains that to this day. I've heard it here. He said it to me a few times. So it was probably a worry, but nothing that couldn't be overcome.
Well, it is a cliche, but I suppose injuries can make you stronger.
Exactly,
and it's probably, is it a moment that you I suppose, look back on and to push on then?
Yeah, I suppose I would have been I became nearly a sponge after that, I would have said, for like, I don't know whether it's podcasts or listening to different coaches or different things, and I just had so much free time. I couldn't train in the evenings or whatever. So yeah, I learned a lot about other aspects of sport, mentality, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was brilliant.
The first recollection I have of yourself probably was the under-20 campaign, I think in 21.
Yeah, it would have been 21.
Yes, and against the All-Ireland final that year. It was kind of, you went under the radar a tiny bit that year until the kind of final, and I think Mayo were favourites in that game as well going into it. And it was actually just a fantastic performance between attack and defence. I think Mayo were limited to about maybe 1-6 in the game.
Yep.
At the start of that year, were you thinking high? Was it just to take Connacht? You know, what was the thinking? I suppose within the camp you knew you had a good team.
Yeah, so we knew we had a good team. We'd done the trials, and I remember coming away, even Dad was at the trials. I remember coming away from the trials and Dad said, geez, you've a very good team there, a very good group of players. So yeah, we had a good group of players. It was just after COVID, so COVID had happened, so we didn't end up going back until May. So we really only had 6 to 8 weeks maybe of a campaign. So listen, Liam Tully was over us, and I'd say Liam would say himself that he wasn't too focused on all the ins and outs of tactical awareness and all that. He just wanted us to really enjoy playing football, and that was something that I liked about Liam, and what I thought it suited us very well. We loved going training, we really enjoyed it as a group, and yeah, it just kept rolling. It was actually, we played Offaly, funnily enough, in the first challenge of the year.
Yeah, I remember that at the time.
We played them in Kiltoom, and it was a very even game. There was nipper tuck in it, and we were kind of surprised. We were thinking, geez, if Offaly are doing this to us, we mightn't be that good. But as it turned out, Offaly were a brilliant team, and the year kept rolling. We had a great kind of final against Mayo. It was, you have massive memories still from that day. Obviously what happened against Offaly happened. It was disappointing, but we probably have a core of players now from that team that have really pushed on, and Davy's given us a brilliant opportunity to really break into the senior team. And I think, I don't know exactly off my head the amount of lads that were playing, but I'd say there was definitely 5 or 6 of us starting in the quarter-final against Armagh last year. So it's a massive thing to tip of the cap to Davy, but I suppose as our group of players and our underage coaches all the way along, it was a big thing. So
yeah, and look, when you win a Connacht final, you go on to the Down semi-final, you're underdogs again in that was a highly rated Down team you played in Breffni. You win that comfortably enough by the end. Then to be exposed to Croke Park, and it was a unique final towards Roscommon Offaly, and it was coming out of COVID. I think the capacity was capped at about 24,000, but the tickets all sold out. So it was a packed Croke Park as it could be at the time.
Yeah.
How was that build up that week? You're all 19, 20-year-olds. You're not experienced inter-county players. To deal with that week, just a completely new experience.
Yeah, new experience, but one that I really enjoyed, because I suppose Down, I can't remember, was it Saturday or Sunday? I think it was the Sunday. We played Down, and it was literally a 6-day turnaround. It felt very quick. Yeah. So it was definitely, Offaly had 2 weeks of a turnaround. We had 1 week, so that definitely didn't help us. In the final, I'd say we were probably a little bit, I suppose, emotionally fatigued, because we never felt it as players. After the Down game, there was supporters everywhere. There was lads nearly crying their eyes out. It was amazing, really. And I suppose that was a big kind of shock to us, nearly, just the reaction to it. So yeah, there was great excitement for that week. Yes, it was a very daunting experience in Croke Park, I would have said. For the first experience, we were all trying to enjoy it, but that Ufalia chant seemed, there was only 24,000, but it felt like a cauldron at the time when you're not used to it. So, but yeah, it was a great experience. Obviously not the result we wanted, but a great learning experience.
Yeah, and look, I know, everyone in Roscommon knows, when any bit of success or any big win, the Roscommon people go mental for anything, whether it's early pitch invasions or leading up to weeks. And on the game itself, just briefly, as you mentioned there, you played Offaly in a challenge. Look, no one probably would have predicted that would be the pairing. Was it just maybe the start? I know it was a few missed goal opportunities, that can happen. Just that maybe Offaly got, I think, did they go 3 or 4 up straight away at the start? That had a bit of a head start, and maybe just kept that throughout then. Yeah,
there probably was. They got an early-ish goal, I'd say, as well, and it probably was just a little bit of a blow to us. We missed our couple of goal chances or whatever, and that was kind of well known at the time, but yeah, listen, we probably underperformed slightly, but also, again, similar to the Strokes thing, Offaly were underrated as a team. They were an excellent group of players. They didn't get to an All-Ireland final by chance, so they were great group of lads, and even they've pushed on, and there's a lot of them playing on the colleges scene that are great footballers. Like, so yeah, listen, we take our learnings out of it.
The following year then you were under 20 again.
Yeah.
Were you approached to go into the senior panel, or did you just make the decision yourself to just completely focus on under 20 for the year?
We were asked into the senior panel, a few of us, and we went in for a couple of weeks, but I suppose just the amount of the lads that were in there, physically I probably felt myself that I was a little bit off it. I remember there was one day we were out training early, I'd say it was early December, and Ulton Herney gave me a bit of a rattle under a high ball, and I said,
he's probably not the one player you really wouldn't want.
Exactly, so I kind of got a rattle off him, and I thought, jeez, I'm not ready for this yet. So and then I was made captain of the under 20 team along with Adam, so it was probably a thing of, I'd probably just give the under 20s another good crack and have a good crack at the club year, and hopefully Roscommon will still be an option then in the future. Yeah,
is that the main difference? Obviously you could be the most technical player in the world, and which is a massive part of the game, but just the physicality, going up to that level, the conditioning of that, and probably a lot of players do find
definitely,
that first training session even
shock to the system. Like, so I suppose Enda and Donny probably would have, just to take an example from her own club, like they would have been in the senior team at 18. I suppose where we were coming from was we were coming from an under 20 team into a division. I suppose they're Division 1, Division 2. They're really they're well conditioned outfit. We were miles off that level. And I think that's commonplace across the country now. You don't see too many 18-year-olds playing county senior football anymore. It's 20, 21, 22 before you usually make that break in. So we were probably a long way off that level. But the following year was very disappointing. We lost to Sligo obviously in the first round. We had a brilliant team, really good team. I thought we had a great chance of really pushing on, but I think we had something mad, like 19 wides and 11 shorts.
I remember watching it. I was thinking, and you still only lost by a point, and that Sligo team went on to win the Connacht title then.
Yeah, exactly, and it was a freak game really, to be honest. The Sligo were a good side, but we were a far better team in my opinion, and we had brilliant players. Again, a lot of the lads that are in the senior team now, so I thought we had a great rattle at that. Obviously, again, didn't work out, but a learning experience too. Yeah.
So then the next year, then you're into the senior panel now. I'm just going off vague recollection here. That was it a kind of stop start? Did you pick up a couple of injuries that year? It just felt maybe it didn't fully get going that year. I don't know. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I suppose I'd done a good bit of work in the pre-season myself, just to try and get to that physical level. Work with nutritionists and all that sort of stuff to try and get really at it. And I had a good pre-season and actually felt really confident. I never felt in awe of the lads or whatever. I was always massive respect for the senior players, but we had a brilliant dressing room to go into, and the lads were brilliant for us, and I felt like I was right at that level. Davey obviously gave us a few of us a start against Tyrone. I think myself and Ben started against Tyrone, and Conor Carroll probably too, and I didn't feel out of my depth at all. I felt very comfortable, thought we played quite well, and then the same against Galway the next day out, and then we'd Enda and Kieran Murtha actually coming back into the team, so they had to make space for them lads. We ended up I ended up losing out. Then I got dropped for one of the games, and that was a good kind of thing, that listen, you're not flying here yet, you're not at that level yet. So it was probably a shock to myself, but I had to learn from it, and then got back in the team for the Kerry game. We played down in Tralee, and felt like I was going really well again. I'd made an impact off the bench a couple of times, and felt very happy with the Kerry game. And just freak accident on the Friday, probably a little bit of over use kind of came into the Kerry game, and probably was trying to impress, so I covered nearly 12 or 13k, I can't remember what it was, and probably tried to train too hard on the Wednesday and ended up the hamstring popped on the Friday. That was devastating really, because we were only 2 weeks out from Mayo at that stage. And I had kind of put myself back in, I was back in the team essentially for the Mayo game. So I remember coming off the pitch in Kiltoom, I was distraught, just bawling the eyes out, inconsolable. So that was tough. And then there was just a kind of got the hamstring right. And then the other hamstring started to cause a bit of issue. It's just getting used to senior football. So that was that. But I got myself back for the Cork game, which is something I was kind of proud of at the time. Probably got back in and got a couple of points against Cork.
Well, because I was going to say that was the game. Look, unfortunately, from your own point of view, it didn't go according to plan that day. Losing the game, but it just felt actually that day that you were nearly finding, even though it was the game you came back, it felt like for that, when you came on for that 20 minutes, you were actually finding a good bit of form, and you felt sharp probably in that game. Yeah,
I felt sharp in the training before that, and probably naively was thinking, geez, why am I getting the start here? But that was just being young, I suppose. So then, the lads told me that, listen, I'd be coming on. I had a great chat with Kelly, who was our psychologist, and she told me just really be ready, and this is your day. And it turned out I played quite well. I was happy, and it was just a kind of a thing like, listen, you're here now, and you can push on. It gave me a great stepping stone for next year, for the year just gone by. So obviously the result wasn't what we wanted, but I'd put in a lot of hard work personally to get back. So it felt like a nice little reward for that. But obviously you're discussed in the dressing room afterwards. But that was that year really.
Yeah, and just touching on this year then. It was probably a league to forget. Yep. In most ways. How within the camp there was a bit of noise on the outside from maybe locals and national media that Roscommon weren't playing well, maybe just their strengths and that. How important is it to keep a tight knit camp and that just to ignore it, because there is going to be whether it's nonsense or not spoken about within any county at times. Yeah,
I suppose to us that was a lot of noise really. We're so lucky, very lucky, especially as young players coming in. The senior players we have the Smiths, the Murthas are brilliant, the Dailies, we've Connor Cox, we've Ulton, we just branched out, all really good senior players. And within the camp it was never an issue. It was always, we lose the game, we learn from it, we move on, we have another league game the following week. And if you think the year before, we probably got a bit of luck in a couple of them games. To win them, it was just the bounce of a ball, and we probably didn't get that this year. So that was disappointing, but within the camp we were very confident in our own ability, and we knew that come championship we'd be rightly primed. It was probably, listen, you probably hear a little bit of the outside noise, but within our own camp there was never that negativity.
Yeah, it was probably still a slow burner in championship. The Mayo Connacht championship game didn't go to plan. Then you went to the group stage. Dublin, there was some positives probably for 50 minutes or so that you could hold on to. Mayo, there was some positives as well. Having to win the Cavan game, you do that. Then Tyrone comes, and I suppose Healy Park, Roscommon had never beaten Tyrone in the championship at any level. So again, probably not given a chance. But do you use that to your advantage in some ways?
Yeah, it was mad really. We were so focused on that championship period. We knew that, listen, we have Mayo in the first group game. We obviously lost the initial round to Mayo, and that was very disappointing. But we knew that we had Mayo, Dublin, Cavan, and all we needed, rightly or wrongly, the way the structure was set up, that if we ended up losing our first two games, we had just had to beat Cavan and we had a chance of being in the preliminary quarter-finals, and anything could happen. So we took a lot of learnings. I thought we played quite well against Mayo. I thought we were very impressive against Dublin. They obviously opened up at the end and got a couple of goals, but we were very impressive, I thought. And then Cavan, we kind of made, it wasn't heavy work, we made easy enough work at Cavan, so that was a positive. And then obviously the Tyrone game came, and we really played on that thing of, listen, we won't worry about the negativity or the people talking us down from outside. We were really focused that within the camp we had a great opportunity. I remember the night before there was this real atmosphere, and I think all the lads would refer to that we had this real atmosphere of there's no one going to beat us here tomorrow, only ourselves. So we were fully switched on, and the result took care of itself, and it was a brilliant day for us.
It felt like everything was going over. There was wonder points. I was going to ask you about the point you got at the end. I was in the stand, and when Tyrone got it back to a point, I think Canavan had a shot, and I think everyone thought it was over, and it was kind of looking maybe one way. The point you got, Conor Carroll comes up the pitch, gives it to you. It was almost like you nearly you got caught it and dropped it in the same motion over the bar. And that was off your left. You're right-footed, aren't you?
No, I'm left-footed.
Oh, you're left-footed.
So,
well, that's a compliment in itself. That I don't know what foot you are.
Well, no, look, sure, I've been working on my 2 feet since I was a young lad, so I think it's an important part of the game. So it's kind of just whatever comes to, I'm happy enough to use now. But actually, funny enough, again, Kelly's coming up, the psychologist, but we had a chat that morning about showing a bit of leadership, and if we get a chance, can I show that bit of leadership? And yeah, I just felt at the time the game maybe was slipping away from us a little bit. We were really aggressive in the first half, brilliant performance, and then obviously we knew Tyrone were going to get that purple patch. And yeah, sure, listen, Daire Cannovan's a class footballer, and not by himself, but he kind of nearly dragged them back into it. And I was kind of down the other end of the pitch saying, right, I need to show my little bit of leadership now. And listen, Connor was coming up the field. Myself and Connor have a good relationship on and off the pitch, like, so we had actually worked on kind of something similar in the weeks building up to it. So I just kind of pulled out wide and left a bit of space through the middle, and Connor was brave enough to take on the pass, which a lot of people mightn't have done. And yeah, listen, I was confident. I'd had a good year, and I just felt confident anyway. So I just took on the shot, and it went over. So there was no real thought into it now or anything. It was just it was just what happened. But it was nice just to feel like I'd helped a bit and showed that little bit of leadership, that it wasn't just leaving it to the older lads just to kind of pull us out of the fire again. So that was nice. And
then the next day, Armagh, it was probably, again, both teams seen this as an opportunity, I'd imagine, for yourselves. We Roscommon have beaten Armagh a couple of times over the years, and vice versa. So going into that, you're in Croke Park. From the week before when I mentioned it, everything was going over. It just didn't happen for some reason in Croke Park. I know the pitch, the pitch was, it probably looked like an ice rink from the stands. Anyways, it just didn't happen for some reason. I don't know.
No, it didn't. And listen, again, it was tough. There was a short turnaround to that game. I suppose we would have felt really confident when we got Armagh in the draw. We were buzzing. We felt like we have a right good crack at this. We didn't fear Armagh. As the game turned out, listen, you can't really blame weather and stuff, but it wasn't a brilliant day for us as forwards. Personally, I was just, I don't know how many shots I had, 5 or 6, and just none of them seemed to go over. And I know a few of the other lads felt that as well, and it was just disappointing. But yeah, listen, we got a red card early on. That didn't help our case. Kind of an unlucky enough red card, really. But all them things probably need to go your way in an All-Ireland quarter-final against a really hardened team that have been there for 7 to 10 years. Like, so listen, we weren't that far away, I don't think, and like we feel like we're right up at that top table.
Well, you see what Armagh went on to do, and I suppose it probably gives hope to the likes of yourselves, other counties. Obviously Dublin, Kerry will always be there, but to see what Armagh went on and done, just, you know, I suppose it inspires some other counties that may not be thinking that thing, but can we get to a semi-final? Can we then maybe, if you're in a semi-final, can you get to a final, and so on? So, you know, from watching Armagh win it, you know.
Yeah, I think regardless of Armagh winning or not, I think there was a real feeling this year of we're getting there. Like, so that's testament to Davy and the management team, and you know, we have a brilliant background team in place. And as I mentioned earlier, we just have really good older players, really good leaders, and we have a good group of young lads coming too. And obviously, like, we're lucky we're getting, I'd say, Kieran Murtha back, who's a massive addition. I played the summer with him in Boston, and there's not too many better footballers in the country than Kieran. So he's a massive addition back. We have a couple of really good young lads coming back. Even Keane McKeown, our own club mate, is back. Like, so he's a massive addition. We just feel really confident going into it. I think we're really building now, and hopefully that'll show now when it comes down to it. But yeah, as I said, really looking forward to it, and it's probably a testament to Davy and how much confidence he's instilled as us as a unit.
And just going into next year, or even beyond that, what's the aims? What's the ceiling for yourself? If you own your own personal goal set for your career, I know you don't want to look too far down the line, take a year at a time, but is it to win a Connacht title? Is it
well, listen, Connacht title is, I want to win one on the way to winning All Ireland. So we're probably long enough waiting around Roscommon now not to be talking about. If we're going to have a chance, we have a really good unit, as we have a really good team. We all get on so well. We have great bond on and off the pitch. So I think we're right up there. And listen, All Ireland is everyone's goal at the start of the year, and I'm no different. I think we're really not too far away. And yeah, obviously a Connacht final is very important to win on the way, and it just gives us that confidence. And listen, we're in a Division 2 where there's really good teams, but again, we have that real chance to, I suppose we might be trying new players or whatever, and try and build myself even. I'm not long in the team, so it's to try to just cement my own position and make sure of that. And then I suppose personal goals would just be to be in, kind of show that bit of leadership within the team, and hopefully be one of the main players for the year. Listen, whatever happens after that happens. So really hoping to push on again.
Finally, on Davy Burke and the management team, how important is it for the likes of Davy going into year 3 next year, the continuity? And we've seen with Armagh, with I suppose Ciarán McGeeney's there 10 years, and they stuck with him. The players. Yeah. Again, outside noise. There was even some people in Armagh wanted Ciarán McGeeney to go the year before they won the All Ireland. So from your own point of view and the lads within the camp, how important is continuity?
It's massive. It's massive for us, and I suppose continuity is important when you have the right man at the top. So I think we're blessed with Davy. There's always outside noise about different things, but we're really lucky. Davy is a top coach. And I think even he'd say himself, probably from the first year, he's developed a relationship with the group of players, and he's probably developed as manager himself. And listen, we've a really good man at top, and we have new coaches in, whatever. We're going to have a really good coaching team. So, hopefully that continuity, and I hope it continues for another couple of years, because, listen, he's the right man to be leading us. So, we're looking forward to it.
So, new rules being proposed as well. You took part in the Interpros there a few weeks ago in Croke Park. New experience, how'd you find it?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was a privilege to be asked up to play and to be involved at that level. We had brilliant players across the team, so it was nice, even just as a sponge, picking up little things off lads and stuff. So, it was brilliant from that point of view. And then, obviously, the rules themselves, listen, they're exciting. There's no point in saying otherwise. They are going to be exciting, and they're probably going to try and change the game. I suppose as players, you probably don't find the game that boring. I'd say, like, we're working on a lot of tactical stuff, and you can feel that coming to fruition after hard work. So it probably outside has probably more impact on the rules than anything. But yeah, listen, the new rules are interesting. I suppose with the Interpros, I think the 2-point arc felt a little bit forced. So hopefully the more kind of games happen, the more natural that'll become. I'm kind of glad they've got rid of the 4-point goal. I think that would have created too much gaps between teams. And then, outside of that, the touch and go was very interesting. I kind of liked the mark as it was, the rule. I know a lot of people didn't, but
as a forward, it'd make it a bit easier on yourself.
Yeah, it was a nice rule. So listen, the fact that that's kept in some regard is nice. Yeah. But yeah, the kick-outs and all that won't be affecting me too much. Yeah. But listen, I think they're exciting, definitely, and it'll make for a very different league and championship campaign.
And the biggest change, I suppose, is going to be, if it gets through, is the line across the pitch, 3 up, 3 down. Again, might benefit you. I know players have to work back on that you might only have to go to the halfway line.
Yep.
But did you feel, even when the ball was turned over up the other end, just the sheer amount of space? It felt like that in a lot of the games, that these rules, for a forward anyways, and our best forwards, it should benefit 100%.
Definitely, yeah. I think the Leinster game was probably a little bit skewed, but it felt really good there, as in, if we got a turnover, the first option was, can we kick? So that was nice. It probably got a lot tighter against Ulster. They were a lot more, we hadn't done any real tactical stuff, but Ulster were tactically switched on for the game. So there probably wasn't as much of that turnover kick. So it was a bit more contained. But yeah, I love the 3-on-3. I think that was a necessity to come in, and it's going to make for good viewing. I suppose the argument will be, we'll be nearly arguing between ourselves and Roscommon who's going to play up top, because we've so many forwards. But I think it'll change, and it gives the lads a break, and I think you still actually cover a lot of ground within.
Absolutely, yeah. And just within the game as well. And I know you only had one training session. You played 2 games. Was there someone calling to say, "Oh, we have 3," or was there any shouts to make that, or did that just come naturally, basically, that you were kind of all looking around to see, had we the 3 up?
I think it was nearly the opposite. It was, we need to get one out of there, because we had 4 or 5 lads standing around inside. So, but yeah, no, that was probably just because it was exhibition games. I think you switch onto it really quickly, actually. It's from the 45 to the halfway was a big difference. If it was the 45, that's a big change. Whereas halfway is actually quite a long way. So, it was easy enough to kind of keep track of the 3. And I think it'll be hard in club games when you've only, we say, referee, or how's it going to work in club challenge games, or even challenge inter-county games where you've only one referee. So it's going to be hard to judge that. But yeah, no, it's a good rule in terms of keeping lads up. I like it.
briefly as well, reported over the summer that the AFL were looking at you at club. Didn't materialise by the looks of it?
Yeah, so Carlton were on, it kind of started out of nowhere really. I kind of got a bit of a shock when I got the phone call. Listen, I hadn't been I'd watched AFL and I thought it was a good sport. I wouldn't say I was in love with the sport or anything, not to the same level of Gaelic football. But yeah, it was nice to be asked, and listen, I had a meeting with them or whatever, and they were really good guys. Obviously a professional setup was a professional setup, so it was appealing from that kind of side of things. But yeah, listen, I really, as I said, I think we have a really good chance with the group players we have at Roscommon. I think we have a good manager who has good time for young lads and good trust in young lads. So yeah, I just felt like it wasn't the right option, and I think the Tyrone game actually was probably had a part to play, as in we got a big result and just people on the pitch afterwards and that real emotion and stuff. That was special. You had people again, like the Down game in 2021. There was people crying on the pitch, and it's mad to see older people crying because of what we've done. So yeah, you probably sometimes again forget the impact you're having. So that was brilliant. Yeah. So I suppose all them little things probably fed into the fact that I just probably love the game too much, and I don't feel I'd be getting the best out of myself over there, because I'd miss this side of things too much. So yeah, listen, there was obviously other, college and different things involved and all that, but yeah, it's a decision made now and it's done and dusted. So
well, look, everyone in Roscommon, football fans are happy you're staying anyways. But Daire, thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks very much, Daire.
No worries.
Thank you.